Picture a Saturday with nothing in it, no plans, no obligations, no one asking anything of you. For most animals, that would simply be existence. Rest, wait, conserve. But for a human, that empty Saturday can become one of the most uncomfortable experiences of the week. Not pain, not hunger, not fear, just nothing. And somehow, nothing feels unbearable. That feeling has a name: boredom. And it seems obvious, almost too simple to question. Of course, humans get bored. Everyone knows that feeling. But here is what almost nobody asks: why? Why does the absence of stimulation feel like a problem? Why does the brain treat emptiness like a threat? And why, out of every creature on this planet, does it seem to hit humans the hardest? Because boredom is not just an inconvenience. It is one of the strangest signals the human brain produces. And when you look closely at what it actually is, where it came from, and what it does to us, the story becomes far more unsettling than a restless Saturday afternoon. First, let's be precise about what boredom actually is, because it is often confused with laziness, or tiredness, or simply wanting something more exciting. But those are not the same thing. Boredom is a specific state. It is the feeling that your current situation is not engaging enough for your mind, but you cannot find or create something that fixes that. It requires awareness. It requires expectation. It requires the sense that time is passing and that something is being wasted. That last part is important. Boredom is not just low stimulation. It is low stimulation combined with the awareness that stimulation is possible and missing. A rock does not get bored. A sleeping dog does not get bored. But a dog left alone in an apartment all day might chew through furniture, bark for hours, or pace in circles. Is that boredom? Possibly. Some researchers argue that certain highly social animals, particularly mammals with complex brains, show behavioral signs that resemble boredom. Captive primates engage in repetitive behaviors when understimulated. Elephants in zoos show signs of psychological distress. Rats in barren cages behave differently than rats in enriched environments. So the experience may not be exclusively human in some basic form. But what humans do with boredom and how deeply it cuts appears to be in a category of its own. Here is why. Boredom in its full human form requires something most animals do not seem to have in the same way: a sense of time as a resource. When you are bored, you're not just uncomfortable in the present. You're aware that minutes are passing, that this hour could have been something, that you are watching your own life go by without meaning attached to it. That feeling, time awareness combined with a hunger for purpose, may be uniquely, or at least overwhelmingly, human. And it connects to something deeper in how our brains are built. The human brain is one of the most expensive organs in the known history of life. It consumes roughly 20% of your body's energy, while weighing about 2% of your body weight. That is an enormous biological investment, and the brain does not like to idle. When the brain has no task, it does not simply rest. It activates a network called the default mode network. This is a system that becomes highly active when you are not focused on the outside world. It generates thoughts about the past, simulations of the future, narratives about yourself and other people, and wandering, associative thinking. In other words, your brain creates its own content when none is provided. It tells stories. It worries. It daydreams. It rehearses imaginary conversations. It wonders what would have happened if something had gone differently years ago. That capacity is remarkable. It may be connected to creativity, planning, empathy, and self-awareness. But it has a cost. A brain that constantly generates internal experience also constantly generates the sense that experience should have meaning. And when the outside world offers nothing, and the inside world offers only noise, the result is boredom. The itch without a scratch. This may be why boredom feels worse than it should. Studies have found that people will choose mild physical discomfort over sitting quietly with their own thoughts. In one well-known experiment, participants were left alone in a room for up to 15 minutes with nothing to do. Many found it difficult. A significant number, when given the option, chose to give themselves small electric shocks rather than continue sitting in silence. Think about that. A human brain will choose pain over emptiness. That is not a flaw. That is a signal. The brain treats understimulation as a warning. Something is wrong. This situation needs to change. Find something. Build something. Connect with someone. Create meaning from this moment before it disappears. In an evolutionary context, that signal may have been genuinely useful. An ancestor, sitting idle near a dying fire, while food was scarce, threats were possible, and social bonds needed maintenance, was not in a safe position. The discomfort of doing nothing may have pushed people toward action, exploration, problem-solving, and cooperation. Boredom, in that sense, may not be a bug. It may be a drive. A motivational state that kept restless, large-brained social creatures from sitting still when stillness was dangerous. But the modern world has done something strange to that drive. It has surrounded us with more stimulation than any human brain evolved to handle, and yet boredom has not disappeared. If anything, it has become more intense. Because stimulation is not the same as meaning. You can scroll through hundreds of images in minutes, watch hours of video, read fragments of 1,000 stories, and still feel that specific hollow feeling. Not tired, not satisfied, bored, overfed, and undernourished at the same time. This is sometimes called high-stimulation boredom, or the boredom of abundance. The brain was built to search for meaning in a world where stimulation was limited and meaningful. Now stimulation is unlimited and often meaningless. The signal misfires. The itch returns no matter how often you scratch. And this may be one of the stranger psychological challenges of modern existence. Ancient boredom said, "There is nothing here. Go find something." Modern boredom says, "There is everything here, and none of it is enough." There is one more layer worth sitting with. Because boredom is not just uncomfortable. Research suggests chronic boredom is connected to some serious outcomes. It correlates with higher rates of anxiety and depression. It is linked to impulsive behavior, risk-taking, and substance use. People who are frequently bored report lower life satisfaction across long stretches of time. But here is the twist. Boredom may also be one of the conditions under which the brain does its most interesting work. When you resist the urge to immediately fill silence, when you let the mind wander without grabbing the nearest distraction, the default mode network activates fully. And that wandering, that undirected thinking, is associated with creative insight, emotional processing, and the kind of slow thinking that connects distant ideas in unexpected ways. Some of the most significant ideas in science, art, and culture may have emerged from moments that felt, at the time, like nothing was happening. Boredom endured is not the same as boredom escaped. One leads to noise, the other can lead somewhere unexpected. So why do humans get bored in a way that seems to set us apart? Because we are the animal that needs meaning, not just stimulation. We are the species whose brains never fully stop looking for purpose, pattern, and story. We are the creatures who experience time as something that can be wasted, which means we are also the creatures who can feel the loss of a moment before it is even gone. That is an unusual thing to carry. Most animals live inside the present. Humans live in the present while also watching it from the outside, measuring it, judging it, wanting it to add up to something. Boredom is the cost of that capacity. You cannot have a brain that builds meaning without also having a brain that notices when meaning is absent. You cannot have a mind that imagines a better moment without also suffering when the current moment falls short. The Saturday, with nothing in it is not a malfunction. It is the other side of everything that makes the human mind unusual. The restlessness, the hunger, the dissatisfaction with simply existing without purpose. Every other animal can rest in an empty moment. Humans have to do something with it, even if that something is just sitting with the discomfort and asking why. And maybe that question, the refusal to accept emptiness without an explanation, is exactly what makes us the strangest animal on the planet.